Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Experts Talk. Today, myself and Alkan are going to be discussing a topic which is the talk of the town, really. And it comes across everyone's mind when it comes to buying a property directly from the developer or going into the resale market, and why there are discrepancies in terms of the prices. It's higher with the developer, it's a bit lower in the resale market, sometimes significantly lower. Help us understand a little bit more about these differences in prices, Alkan.
It's a really big question, Sam, you're pulling out today.
I had to.
Yeah, I know, right? Let's cover it. One thing that you mentioned there, and I will be very blunt about this. You mentioned that it's either significant or it's minor. The difference, right?
Sometimes it's really not that much bigger.
That delta, that difference in terms of primary price as opposed to secondary price is usually significant. Usually, right? And especially so when the project is under construction.
Right.
Okay. So if the project's not delivered yet and you already have market values for secondary markets, obviously there will be a huge discrepancy there, right? Because the project's not been handed over. Right. It's not had the time to mature. It's not had the time to get any demand, any form of demand on it yet, right? Because people don't know what the product is yet.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So that's a controversial topic. Okay. Usually, again, discrepancy is quite big. But I think one very important factor a lot of people seem to tend to forget is that this has existed since the beginning of Dubai's life, really. And the one important thing here is that developers are adding in profit margins to selling their properties. It's a business, right? And the business needs to thrive. The way it does so is through profits, naturally.
Right.
So back in 2000, back into 2010, back now even as well, the profit margins are still there for the developer, right? So when you consider buying a property that is under construction and you want to liquidate the asset because whatever, you want to move it to a business or you want to move it elsewhere, you need to make sure that profit margin is minimized because you are not a developer, right? And you need to make sure your property is the most desirable thing to sell. So you do start getting a delta, you do start getting a gap between the prices. Now, the way that gap is eventually filled is when the project hands over, right? When you get more sets of eyes on the project, the more people start to live there.
Right.
Exactly.
More time you give the project a chance to mature.
Absolutely.
The more it corrects itself in terms of prices.
Absolutely. I mean, the Dubai Hills Estate is a perfect example of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Look at the Sidra Villa prices as opposed to 1 year ago, as opposed to now.
Right.
People are finally moving there. People are finally living there. And all of a sudden, you're now finding that balance.
Yes.
Right? It took a bit of time, sure. Right?
Exactly.
But a project has to be delivered in order for that to happen.
I so agree with this. It really is a big topic to cover in just one video.
I agree.
But we're more than open to anyone who needs more details on this to send us a direct message, get in touch with us. We can sit down with you and explain to you more details about
100%.
this. Yeah?
Look, in terms of what this equation, the amount of elements in this equation, why there's such a big discrepancy, there is, again, no one definitive answer to explain why. Right? There are so many factors in that whole process.
And it's different from one project to another.
Absolutely.
Well, right?
I mean, my perfect example is the Emaar beachfronts, right? Emaar beachfront has 24 buildings, 21 residential buildings, fine. There is one standout building that you know very well, right? The Resale.
Right.
So it depends on the project. It depends on the uniqueness of a particular building or a particular community.
There we have an example of one project, but there's one building that's designed by a famous international designer, Resale, that has a very different price than the entire project.
Absolutely. But again, you look at now, in today's time, you look at the prices between primary and secondary, what do you know? The 04 series for the 3-bedroom corner units is significantly higher than what the developer was selling.
Right.
Because the developer has no more stock left.
Right.
And all of a sudden that power is now in control of, in the hands of owners.
Right.
I have an owner who's bought something in the very high floors of the 04 series. And he bought it at a certain price. Now he's selling that very easily at 10% premium.
There you go. So it's not just the case of having to see lower prices in the resale market, but a lot of times it could be something at a premium price.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really interesting.
That's why I say there are so many factors in that equation. And a lot of brokers out here are they have a bit of a tunnel vision approach to it, right? They'll say, oh, the prices will dip, the prices will dip, the prices will dip. They'll eventually go up. That's not true. Sit down with an expert, really. sit down with an expert and evaluate, assess the entire thing all together, right? Because when you make such a big decision in your life, like buying property, it cannot be a mistake. It has to be a right decision. That's why advisors really need to step in and make sure they understand the weight of responsibility on their shoulders.
I love it. I absolutely love this answer. It's more clear to me now,
Yeah.
and I think it's more clear to our viewers as well. If they were to get in touch with us, you'd be able to sit down and explain to them this in details, right?
Happily so.
So get in touch with us, send us a direct message. Myself and Ilkan will help you understand more about the subject in details, and we'll see you in another episode. Goodbye.